Welcome back to Love Talk. Thank you for watching the show. Today we're talking about those areas where we have experienced a prolonged experience of pain. Emotional, mental, psychological, spiritual pain. We don't go through life without having some form of pain. If you're born, you're going to have some kind of pain. It's unavoidable, and most people don't even want to talk about it. Or they just want to escape the pain. And it has become, especially in our time, the generational atmosphere that we live in now, in the last, 30, 40, 50 years, especially because of breakthroughs in technology and in science, we have been spared a lot of pain. And that's a good thing. I'm not proposing that you should have pain. I'm just proposing that pain is a signal, whether it be emotional pain, any kind of pain that you experience, it is a signal to change one of two things. Either the way you are processing things, in other words, what you're doing, your processes and procedures. Maybe you're going about something in a way that is causing yourself and others to continue suffering. You know, a classic example is if you're banging your head against the wall, that's a process that may deal with stress, but it may give you a headache. It may give you a concussion. And so many times I meet people who are metaphorically pounding their head against a wall, and they've been doing it for years, and then complaining of the headache or the after effect, the symptoms. May not be the best way to process. Maybe it is a signal. So your pain is signaling you to change one of two things: your processes, how you're processing things, in other words, your procedures, or your perceptions, how you're seeing things. Sometimes you just don't see things rightly. Sometimes you see things and through a filter, and that filter may be beliefs, fears, doubts, or untruths that have been handed down through generations of people, maybe through your family. You know, I grew up in an era in the 50s, for example, and it was a time where there were two great superpowers. The United States and Russia were the great superpowers, and they both had developed the atom bomb, right? And so each was taking on a superpower, and they feared each other. So as an American growing up in America in the 50s, I was taught to fear the Russians. Okay, in all of the movies, the spy movies and all the adventure movies, the Russians were the bad guys. They were always, the Russians were the bad guys, and they had Russian spies and we had American spies, and we were all, as a kid growing up, I believed that Russians were bad. I never questioned that. I just never questioned that. And later I grew up, I moved to France, I lived in New York, I met people from all over the world. Some of them were Russians. And I noticed that when I would meet Russians, I would have this thought that they were spies or something, even though that was totally ridiculous. I was now an adult. This was obviously just another person like me. And yet I noticed that I had to move through my own belief systems that I had inherited and that were handed down to me, you see. And you may have filters like that about people of different races, different nationalities, different cultures, different religions than yours. You may have been taught throughout your lifetime, brainwashed really, brainwashed. I was brainwashed into thinking that all of an entire population of people were bad, and that they were our enemies, and that they were against America, and they were spies or something, right? So I was taught that, and I believed it because I was a kid and I was impressionable, and as a kid you don't question what the adults tell you, especially if it's, you know, on TV and your parents and the people at school and so forth. You may just end up believing that that is the truth and never questioning it. So you probably have beliefs that you've never questioned that have been handed down to you, and they may be causing a certain kind of emotional pain or limitation or doubt that keeps you back or hinders you from being fully self-expressed, being fully engaged in relationships, really being all that you are here to be, all that's possible for you to be. And so consequently, to that extent, your life will be limited and you will experience a sort of reoccurring pain that keeps you from, as you are kept back from developing yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and take some calls. Hello, this is Gregory. You are live on the air with Love Talk.
Gregory, I'm calling you from Japan. Are you talking to me?
I sure am. Wow, you're calling from Japan. What time of day is it over there?
Let's have a good day. Right now is 9:20 in the morning, and I often your program online on my computer all the time.
Wow, well, I'm honored. Thank you. It's good to know that.
Thank you very much, and also I watch Dr. Sayan as well. I have a question. I just turned on the computer and I saw you talking. I don't want to change the subject you're talking about, but if I may, I give you a little history of what my problem is.
Sure.
Okay, I have the problem I have is my relationship with my children.
Okay.
58 years old, and I have children starting from 31 and 25, 18 and 16. And then the thing is, I guess as a Iranian father, I was always a little bit over-controlling, or the way the Iranian culture is as far as raising the children.
Well, did you raise your children like your father raised you?
Even though I didn't want to, but I guess I did.
That's what happens. I understand.
Gradually I found out and I realized and I learned that there are better ways, and I have to change my behavior or try to give them a little space and this and that. But I have a specific question I'd like to ask you.
Yes.
The specific question is how can I treat them in a way, how can I actually raise them or treat them in a way that they don't feel any pressure or any controlling? At the same time, I can give them enough advice that they don't fall, because anytime they fall into trouble, it comes back and haunts me. Either I have to pay for it, or I have to be sad, or I have to be disappointed, I have to be depressed, or I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to be, but it's one of the natural reactions that you have. You can actually choose not to be depressed, but
when something
I
happens
understand.
to them, they often things small and big happens.
Yes.
Then I try to warn them beforehand. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't go this way. Don't go that way. But that is too much. That's like over controlling, and they don't like it.
Yeah.
Which line shall I go? Which exact fine line shall I proceed? They don't feel over control and pressure, and at the same time, it will not come back and haunt me. Yeah. That's the way that I feel disappointed and depressed afterwards.
This is brilliant. This is a brilliant question. I'm so glad you're asking it, because for you or one person asking that, there are 1,000 people that may be watching this show that have the same question or issue about that. So I want to point out a few things and it's right in line with what I was talking about. You talked about depression, but what I know that you mean by that is, what I hear is that it hurts you emotionally. It hurts you mentally and emotionally and maybe financially when your children run into trouble. Yeah?
Yeah.
Right. So because you feel responsible. You feel responsible as their father, that maybe it was some kind of a failure on you, or maybe you do have some financial responsibility because you have chosen to assume that financial responsibility. So part of what I was talking about today was pain is a signal to change either your perception or your procedure. And in your case, it's both. Okay? So you learn to raise children from your father who raised you, and you're from a different generation, and that worked out however that worked out, but it sounds like you turned out to be a pretty good guy. You're a husband and a father, and you care about your children, and I'm willing to bet that your kids have all either been to college or are about to go to college. That in and of itself is a good indication that you've been a pretty good father in terms of providing, because do you have 5 kids? Four. To put that many kids through college is a big undertaking in anybody's world, and so I want to congratulate you for that, and it's certainly an indication that you are a good provider and a good father and a good guide, because obviously you're producing productive children. So let me go back a little bit. First, let's stop calling them children, because after 18 you're not a child anymore. Not just legally, but really emotionally. You're not fully developed until you're in your early 20s, as far as your brain and your even your skeleton is still developing and growing. Your brain and nervous system is still developing and growing until your early to mid 20s. So, but after that, we could call you in every sense of the word an adult, unless somebody has held you back or something has held you back and you still consider yourself a child. But as a father, I would think that you would want your children to consider themselves adults at a certain point and to be independent. So let's start by not calling your adult progeny, don't call them kids, call them adults. So your kids are no longer kids after they become adults, and to treat them like kids is disempowering not only to them but to you. As a father, you would naturally want your children to become interdependent. Independent, but dependent by choice. When they choose to depend on another is called interdependent. Okay? Codependent, you definitely do not want. That's destructive relationship in which, you know, if I was in a codependent relationship with you, my failures would be your fault, right? Your failures would be my fault. And so that's called codependence, and you don't want to have that. So you don't want to have by calling your adult youngsters children, you encourage codependence. What I want you to be able to say to the young adults, I mean, the teenagers are not there yet. That's a different case, and we'll talk about that separately. You want to tell them, I have given you everything I know to give you as a father. Tried to show you a good way to live. I've given you an education. I've supported you financially, emotionally, in every way I can to become an independent young adult. Now, I encourage you to make your own decisions, and sometimes you'll make mistakes. You've made mistakes. As an adult, didn't you make mistakes when you left home and went out on your own? Of course you did. We've all made mistakes as adults and as kids. You don't want to discourage them from exploring the boundaries of what they know and growing and developing. So when they grow and develop themselves mentally, emotionally, financially, in all those kinds of ways, they'll make mistakes. It'll cost something. And if you swoop in and take care of the cost so that they never feel the pain and the cost and the weight and the burden and the responsibility of their mistakes, then you have cheated them out of a very important experience. You have not only cheated them, but you have actually destructively interfered with their learning process. You've kept them from learning and growing and developing. Of course you want to be there, but part of your growth and development as an adult, as a 58-year-old man who is, your growth and development is not over just because you got older and your children became adults. In many ways, your growth and development is just beginning. I can tell you that. I'm 61, and I can tell you that there's realizations and knowledge and levels of growth and development that are becoming available, and insights that are becoming available to me now that it took me 40 years to get there. Okay? And so just because you've grown up and grown older doesn't mean that your growth and development is stopped. And part of your growth and development, dear sir, is to experience what it's like to watch somebody that you love go through their growth process and allow them to struggle and have their pain and their growth and their insights and their development without giving into the urge to take care of it for them and to handle it for them. But to give them the encouragement, look, I've given you everything, you're smart, you're wise, you're educated, you've got it together, I know you'll do the right thing. And then let them, you know, of course you want to let them know that if they really get an emergency, you'll be there to help them, but that they are responsible for their lives and for their careers and for their families. Let them take on that weight and that burden like you did, so that they can grow and develop and be an even better man than you are. Just like you raised your kids like your father did, teach them how to raise their kids to be responsible, fully developed, mature adults. And don't expect your kids not to make mistakes. My God, kids, you know, are going to make mistakes, just like you did. Everybody's going to make mistakes, and I'm very thankful, personally, to my father who let me handle most of the mistakes that I ever made. He basically said, look, what are you going to do about this? And then, you know, if I didn't know what to do and I asked for his advice, I said, Dad, I don't know what to do, tell me what to do. He'd give me his advice, but he wouldn't make me do it. He'd say, this is what I would do. And much of his wisdom came with those words. If I were you, I would do this. If I were you. But you have your own wisdom, you have your own responsibilities. What are you going to do? And he would always put the responsibility back squarely on me. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm very thankful for that. He didn't make me do anything. There were things that he was very forceful about me not doing, like breaking the law and stuff, you know. There were things that he didn't want me to do because I'd end up in jail or whatever, or hurt somebody. He was pretty forceful about encouraging me not to do those things. And sometimes that became painful, but I'm thankful for that. Now, for your teenagers, you want to guide them in very much the same way. You know, as long as you're living in my house, as long as I'm supporting you and taking care of all your expenses and putting you through school and stuff like that, there are certain rules that I request you live by. Now, here's what you can do with a request. When you make a request, say, I request, that's different than I demand. And I'm going to tell you the difference in communication. I request means you can accept my request and say, yes, okay, I accept that. You can decline my request saying, nope, I'm not going to do that, in which case there's certain consequences, and those consequences are predictable. In other words, it's not like we'll see what happens. No, this is what's going to happen. If you decline my request, there'll be consequences. If you accept my request, there's other consequences. You accept my request to do your studies, make good grades, come home at a certain time, don't take drugs, all those things that are the rules of the household. You accept those requests. Here's the consequences. I'll pay for your food, your education, your clothing, your car, your computer, your phone, whatever it is that you're taking care of for them. I will continue to do that and supply you with those things if you accept my request and follow these rules, if you will, of the household. You decline those requests, you don't want to, you do something else, then I won't pay for your car or your insurance or your cell phone, or I'll take your computer away, or you won't be, I'll take certain privileges away. That'll be the consequence of declining my request. It's just clean. It's not a punishment. It's just that each choice in life has consequences. You choose this, you have one consequence. You choose this, you have another consequence. There is a third thing that you can do with a request, and that is this. Make a counteroffer. Dad, what if I do this instead? Okay, then you can deal with somebody. That's where negotiation skills come in, yes? Everybody needs to develop their negotiation skills, parents and kids, right? Sometimes you say, I make a request. They go, look, Dad, I don't want to decline your request, but I want to make a counteroffer. I want to counteroffer. What about this? And then you can negotiate. That's up to you. So accept, decline, counteroffer. That's the only three things that you can do with a request. So I request that you raise your kids by making clear, concise requests. You make clear, concise consequences. The consequences of a yes is this. The consequences of a no is this. And you must be prepared to always deliver the consequences of the no. Don't negotiate with that. If you said, I'm going to take your computer away or I'm going to take your car away, you must do it every time. You can't not do that. You can't impose a consequence and then not do it. You have to be willing to do what you said you're going to do. In this way, you're teaching people to be responsible for their own actions or inactions in your growth and development, because you're the one that's having, you're the one that made the call and is the one that's having sort of a pain about this. It's part of your growth and development to, like I said earlier, to either change your procedure or your perceptions, okay? So part of it is change your procedure. Stop treating your adult children like kids and stop calling them kids. Call them by their name, their first name, you know? If your son's name is John, don't call him my son, call him John. Refer to him as a man. Let him know that you think of him as a man, you respect him as a man, and that as a man, he has a right to make choices in life and suffer the consequences, okay? And or enjoy the consequences if he makes right choices. The same with, so that is about changing your procedure. Stop calling them kids and treating them like kids. They're not kids anymore, they're adults, okay? One thing. And to change your perceptions. You're not responsible for them, okay? Ultimately, each and every person, regardless of their age, and this is part of your own expanding and learning, regardless of their age, even as children, they are responsible for their own life. That's really, really hard to get about children. I know there's a lot of people going, how can they be responsible for their life? You are responsible for your life, because at every point along the way, after the age of about 7, okay, there's a period from 1 to 4 where we're just absorbing. We don't really have conscious choice intellect yet. We're making decisions based on our feelings mostly, and so the thing of logic and feelings has not balanced itself out. But by the age of 7, people have developed a personality. They've had enough chance to say yes and no to things and see the consequences of both, that being the super alert, intelligent beings that we are, they've already pretty much formed a personality and a way of dealing with things. And they should then at that point be treated like, hey, you're responsible. So as a parent, for example, you might make a request. You know, I request that you be in bed by 10 o'clock. I request that you get your homework done before we go to dinner. And consequences. Do you accept my request? Yes or no? Okay. Do you have a counteroffer? In other words, that simple communication, that procedure, that processing technique is a simple, basic communication, right? I request. Do you accept my request? Thank you. No, thank you. Yes and no. Please. Also, the other thing is that a lot of people mistake a demand for a request, or vice versa. I'm going to tell you, I told you that a request is something yes, no, counteroffer. A demand, there's only two things, yes or no, and both have consequences, okay? There's no counteroffer in demand. A demand is a demand for a type of behavior, and there will be consequences either way. Make sure that when you're making requests of your children, if you want to teach them responsibility, make sure it's a request, not a demand. And then make sure when you make a demand that they understand it's not a request. It's not negotiable. You either will or will not do this, and this will or will not happen as a result. That is just simply called parenting, guidance. And sometimes when people are growing up and they haven't developed the ability to make conscious decisions that are in a positive sense, that will go towards their growth and development and help them to grow in a positive way, sometimes you got to make demands. That's part of parenting, and it means that you have to impose certain limitations from time to time. People are afraid to make demands very often with their children in this day, in this generation, because we have been taught that we don't want to stunt their growth, or we don't want to have them feel ashamed, or like that, right? I'm not proposing that you be controlling in any sense. I am proposing that you practice good parenting and good guidance by letting someone know that if you go down this way, there will be consequences. And so I'm going to, maybe those consequences are that you'll get in a car wreck, or you'll go to jail, or you'll be shunned by society, or you'll be bankrupt, or whatever. In other words, if you continue along this path, there's going to be very negative consequences that will be given to you by life itself. So I'm going to save you the trouble. I'm going to tell you, don't go there, and if you try to go there, I'm going to put something in your path that will be more painful to deal with than making the other choice. In other words, I'm going to make it unpleasant for you so that you make the right choice. That's just good parenting. Sometimes you have to do that too. You have to look, I'd rather have you make the right choice. I'm willing to make things unpleasant for you and risk having you be mad at me, or even hate me, or dislike me, in order to save you having to suffer the consequences of what's going to happen to you later. That's just good parenting. I hope I've helped you with that, okay? And I've helped you to sort out your perception and your procedures about taking responsibility for your children. The best thing you can possibly do for them is to have them assuming full responsibility as early as possible in life. And so I understand your father may have taken care of things for you, or been controlling in some way, and then maybe he was there to handle the problems whenever you made mistakes. But I'm suggesting that you stop being controlling and start making requests. Give them a choice. Look, you can choose to not do this. You can make me a counteroffer. Give them a choice about, and let them go through their own mental and emotional development as they grow and think about the consequences of things, experience the consequences of things, because consequences are both good and bad. And all choices that you make in life have good or bad consequences, either way. So either choice that you make will have a consequence, and those consequences end up becoming your life. They end up, the actions you take or don't take in life create results in the outside world. Yes? The results that you have in your life, whether it's the money or lack of money you have, the health or lack of health that you have, the relationships or lack of relationships that you have, each and every individual is a function of the choices that you have made and the actions that you have taken or avoided taking have given you the reality that you're actually living, that you call your life. They've given the personality that you present to the world that you call yourself. So I hope that this has been helpful. Anyhow, I want to open up the line to go ahead and if there's any other callers that are there watching, thank you for watching all the way from Japan on the internet. I'm really honored to be able to contribute to you, and I hope that this made a difference in your life. We're talking today about how pain is something that you don't avoid in life. If you love, if you're alive, if you're participating in life, if you care about life, if you're out in life participating, you will have pain. There's no escaping pain. It just comes with being a human being. That's unavoidable. However, suffering, which is the ongoing, continuing, and prolongation of pain, is completely avoidable. It's actually voluntary. People volunteer for suffering. Suffering is when pain is ongoing because you continue doing something that doesn't work, you continue believing something that doesn't work, or you continue processing things, thinking about or perceiving things in a way that doesn't work. And the ongoing suffering is your internal guidance system, if you will, your nervous system, your subconscious mind, the inner you that is telling you, this isn't working. This is not working. And so what people will often do is everything that they could possibly think of or that people will suggest to escape the pain. Escaping the pain is totally beside the point. What you want to do is reach into the pain and find out, what is this trying to tell me? What is there to learn? In other words, stop pointing your finger out there at the pain saying that is hurting me, or this person's hurting me, or this situation's hurting me, or this circumstance is hurting me, or this way of life is hurting me, and stop pointing your finger outward and start pointing your finger towards yourself, not by way of blame, but by way of going, I wonder what there is to learn from this. Like, I really self-reflect. I really want to look into myself and consider, what does this situation have to offer? What is it that I need to forgive and let go of? How many of you have had really horrible situations, or people do terrible things to you, or been caught up in situations in which it appeared that you were the victim, and some pain and suffering was imposed upon you from apparently outside sources? How many of you have had the courage to forgive, to literally let go of your resentments and your holding on and your anger and your resentments about those situations, to literally let go and give up your resentments and your fears, and to actually consider, what was this in my life to teach me? How did I attract this into my life? And what is it that I was supposed to learn, that if I learned it now, if I could learn it now, I would not only end the suffering forever, at least about that particular thing, I would end the suffering forever, and I would give life to this situation, and I would never have to experience that particular type of pain or suffering or imposition ever again. I'm here to tell you that when you learn a lesson that has been imposed upon your life, you actually learn it and you get the learnings, that lesson doesn't come back. It doesn't visit you again. It's gone. You may move on to bigger and better problems or bigger and better issues, but that one won't come back. It's gone. Okay? My favorite thing in the whole world to do is to participate with men in creating honor and integrity in their lives. And I encourage you to go to Embrace Growth and find out about our books, CDs, and DVDs. They're fast, quick, simple, inexpensive ways to gather learnings. We have over 12, I believe we have something like 18 workshops in our DVD section various DVDs in both English and Farsi to teach you everything about relationships, love, marriage, romance, and how to create a fulfilling life full of courage, contribution, and commitment. So I hope that this show has made a difference for you today. Thank you for watching. My name is Gregory Morgan. I will see you back here again next week on Love Talk.
یک مرد منحصر به فرد، مسلط، متمرکز، قابل اعتماد و رضایتمند باشید. کارگاه شرافت، عزت کلام و مهارت به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان. تورنتو 21 تا 23 سپتامبر، همبورگ 19 تا 21 اکتبر، ایروان ارمنستان 15 تا 17 آگوست، لس آنجلس 2 تا 4 نوامبر، 310 460 2600. در کارگاه‌های آموزشی بانوان به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان با دستیابی به اهمیت و ارزش واقعی خود، قدرت زنانگی و آرامش خود را بازیابید. ایروان ارمنستان 7 تا 9 فوریه، لس آنجلس 22 تا 24 فوریه، تورنتو 15 تا 17 مارچ و همبورگ 26 تا 28 آپریل، 310 460 2600. از این پس برنامه دنیای عشق رو از جم USA روزهای جمعه 9 شب، شنبه 11:30 شب، یک شنبه 1:30 ظهر و دوشنبه 8:30 صبح به وقت لس آنجلس دنبال کنید. خانم دکتر آزیتا سایان در برنامه دنیای عشق جوابگوی سوالات شما هستند و به مباحث مهمی همچون ازدواج، تربیت فرزندان، افسردگی، طلاق، سکس، همجنسگرایی، خیانت و هزاران موضوع متنوع دیگر می‌پردازند. برای اطلاعات بیشتر از برنامه‌ها، سمینارها و کارگاه‌های خانم دکتر آزیتا سایان با شماره 310 460 2600 تماس بگیرید و یا از اپلیکیشن و یا وبسایت Embrace Growth دیدن کنید. اپلیکیشن Embrace Growth همکنون در اپ استور. با ساختن اکانت شخصی شما می توانید پروفایل خود را مدیریت و زبان مورد نظر خود را بین فارسی و انگلیسی انتخاب کنید. وقت مشاوره خود را رزرو نمایید. محصولات از جمله CD، DVD و کتاب‌ها را خریداری و دانلود نمایید و یا برای کارگاه‌ها و سمینارها نام‌نویسی کنید. همچنین شما می توانید به برنامه‌های تلویزیونی و رادیویی دکتر سایان و یا آقای مورگن به صورت رایگان دسترسی داشته باشید. اپلیکیشن Embrace Growth را امروز از اپ استور دانلود کنید.
Welcome to the all-new EmbraceGrowth.com. You'll have access to all the content you love at the click of a button. Videos of seminars, events, and the ability to sign up for workshops. Direct access to digital downloads right from your mobile devices. Stay in the know and see our latest graduate events. Watch your favorites anytime, anywhere. Visit us today at EmbraceGrowth.com.
اپلیکیشن Embrace Growth. با ساختن اکانت شخصی شما می توانید وارد پروفایل خود شده و تنظیمات آن را تغییر دهید. به تمامی رویدادها و محصولات دسترسی داشته باشید. با چند کلیک برای سمینارها و کارگاه‌ها ثبت نام کنید و یا وقت مشاوره خود را رزرو نمایید. اپلیکیشن Embrace Growth را امروز از اپ استور دانلود کنید و به خانواده جهانی Embrace Growth بپیوندید. برنامه دنیای عشق با دکتر آزیتا سایان، برنامه‌ای که تمامی سوال‌های شما را جواب می‌دهد. ازدواج، عشق، سکس، همجنسگرایی، فرزندان، والدین، خیانت. از یوتیوب لایو استریم، فیسبوک و اینستاگرام لایو. سه شنبه ها و پنج شنبه ها 10 شب به وقت ایران و 10:30 صبح به وقت لس آنجلس. تلفن تماس با استودیو 818 532 6655.